Bryan Adams, first of all, it's great to see you. Thanks for coming by the studio to talk about your appearance at the committee today. Let's start there. How did that feel, showing up in front of a bunch of parliamentarians to make what you feel is a very important pitch about copyright, and get into that in a second. But start there. What was it like to be there today?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was interesting. It was diverse. It was intelligent, and I think everybody learned something.
What were you there to do today? Explain to our audience.
I was there today to discuss and make a proposal to amend the Copyright Act in Canada that allows authors and composers and songwriters to have the opportunity to own their work earlier than that's being what's proposed right now. What's proposed right now, what's in the Copyright Act now, is that you don't get your work back. There's no reversion of your work whatsoever until 25 years after you die. And I'm proposing that we change one word in the Copyright Act to 25 years after assignment instead of 25 years after death. This would give composers and authors an opportunity to relook and evaluate their work, and perhaps judge whether the people that they signed with 25 or 35 or 100 years ago are the right people to be with.
In practical terms, what kind of a difference could that make to a Canadian artist?
Well, it could make a significant difference, because what happens is when you suddenly own your own work, it's like paying off a mortgage. You know, suddenly the house is yours. Mm-hmm. Now you can decide whether you want to sell it, do you want to, do you want to give it to your children, what do you want to do with it? And currently, the way it is with songwriters and composers and book authors and script writers, all the authors of this great country, is that you don't get that opportunity until you die.
And so, what kind of reception do you felt you got? I mean,
I don't think anybody.
It's
even
not
knew.
The first time you've.
Listen, I don't think
you've raised this before.
I don't think anybody even actually knew that it existed. Until I mentioned it today, I don't think even people even realized. I don't think most Canadian authors even realize that it exists.
Okay, and it's not the first time you've raised it.
It's not the first time, but it's the most public showing of this protest. It's a public protest.
Is that how you describe it?
Well, pretty much. I mean, because I can't say that there's going to be a change, but you got to stand up for what you think is right.
And who have you talked to about this before? I think it goes back to the Harper days. I think.
Yeah, I spoke to Harper about it, and his comment to me was, "Well, it's all right for you. You got your touring still." I said, "Well, it's not about me. It's about youngsters. It's about the young songwriters, the young authors. What if what about you? Let's say you're an author. You write one book in your life, and it doesn't come back until 35 after you die. And, if it came back to you 25 years after, you could decide whether you want to even stay with that publisher or go somewhere else, or if you want to stay, or if you want to assign it to your children, or maybe you want to repackage your book and make it with another book, or maybe you want to, who knew what you wanted to do. The way things work with publishers, a lot of old material becomes back catalog. It's not about the current. So anyway, it was received very well, I think.
And what does it mean to, are there any implications here for taxpayers or consumers?
Well, that's the thing. It has no implication whatsoever. It's the biggest win the Canadian government could have in terms of getting authors and composers on their side. There's no downside to the taxpayer whatsoever.
How do we compare to other countries?
We're behind. We're behind America. Right now, in America, if you assign your copyrights, you get them back 35 years after you assign them. That was amended in 1978.
35 years.
35 years.
But you think it should be 25 years?
I think
Why not 35 years?
Well, I mean, 25. I kind of think one of the things that was brought up today, which was interesting by one of the MPs, was that it's kind of like a mortgage. You can, except the thing is you can't pay it off every 2 years. You could decide to pay it off a mortgage anytime you want, but in this case you can't. But I think it's an interesting parallel that if you use a house as the basis, that if you can own it in 25 years, you've done well. And it's also it's enough time. It's a reasonable amount of time for anyone to exploit a copyright. 25 years is plenty of time. It's going to do what it's going to do within the first few years.
Okay. Don't have too much time left, so let's finish on this. I mean, as I understand it, most of this wouldn't even apply to most of your holdings. Most of your holdings you have. So
Correct.
Why do it?
Well, because it's wrong, and it does affect some of my catalog. But I mean, it's also wrong going forward to let this sort of sit there and fester when it's so unfair to the future generations of Canadian artistry. We should be doing the most we can right now, and with the paradigm that's changed so much for music and because of the internet, that we should be doing as much as we can to give artists as much control as possible.
Just before we say goodbye, you're heading back to New York City right after, I guess, soon after we talk here. What's happening with Bryan Adams? And I think Canadians like to know.
Well, I've just finished composing with my co-writer Jim Vallance a Broadway musical. It's based on the film Pretty Woman, and it's live and up on Broadway.
And that's where you're heading.
That's where I'm heading tonight.
Well, listen, I appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes of your time today, and it's interesting to see that you've taken something you believe strongly in and pursued it to the extent that you came all the way to Ottawa here to appear before a parliamentary committee.
Thank you very much.
All right, good to see you.
And a CPAC.